Do-do-do-do-do. What's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Hello, hello. Hello.
We are live.
All right, folks. How's it going, y'all? My name's Adam Annis. I'm here with Open Studio. We're here a little before 11 a.m. Central on a rainy Tuesday morning here in St. Louis. We're going to practice a very simple chord progression, but we're really going to take it through the paces. This is going to get super nerdy as a lesson. This is, by the way, a recording I'm making for my course, The Harmony Games Unlimited, in which I come up with a new lesson every single week of a harmony game, a different game to practice our chords. And we're just getting set up here. Actually, Andy, would you mind moving this screen a little bit closer to the camera here so I can look at the camera a little more? That would be great. No? Okay. What's up, everybody? Put in the chat where you are in the world. Where are you coming from? Where are you practicing from today? Did you hear what I said? Could you move the screen a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Not a problem.
Thank you. Just need to, just so I'm not looking way off to the side. All right, everyone. Germany's in the house. France is in the house. Spain is in the house. Trevor Wesley is in the house. What's up, y'all? Melbourne, Florida is in the house. Monaco is in the house. Los Angeles is in the house. Argentina, Toronto, Israel is in the house. Czech Republic, Cleveland, Ohio, London. That's great. Thank you, Dan. France, Spain, Angola. Chicago's in the house. Finland, North Florida. LA is in the house. Poland, more Czech. North Carolina, always in the house. Ecuador. Buenos Aires, Argentina, Canada, Miami, England. What's going on, everybody? Northern Illinois. Sam Mall's in the control room, 25 feet away from me. Cleveland, Ohio is here. Right on. Get to your instruments if you like. We're not really, this isn't technically a guided practice session today. This is going to be more of a tutorial, but it is going to be very fun. And it's going to go deep. It's going to start with just a couple of chords, and then we're going to get really deep into it. This is for my course, The Harmony Games Unlimited. There is a PDF. If you want a PDF, you have to be an Open Studio member. It's already posted in the Hang. If you're an Open Studio member, go to the Hang, and you can find this PDF there. Maybe we can put a link to that post there. And if you want to become an Open Studio member to get the PDF and to get the incredible courses and content we make here every single week, then you should join, because this is the time. We have an early Black Friday special going. Now's the time to sign up, the biggest savings of the year, so don't miss that. Maybe we could put a link in the chat, Sam Katz, to that sign up for everyone. That would be awesome. If you wanted to sign up and become an Open Studio member. If you've been thinking about becoming an Open Studio member, maybe you didn't even know Open Studio had a membership, but we make tons of courses. In fact, we just released a course on jazz piano, the very fundamentals of jazz piano, called Jazz Piano Primer, for a rank beginner pianist by an incredible New York City-based pianist named Kaylee O'Doherty, incredible jazz pianist. And in a couple of hours, we're releasing a course by perhaps the greatest living jazz pianist, Sullivan Fortner. In my opinion, one of the all-time greats. Just an amazing person, amazing musician. And yeah. Cool. Bob just posted in the Hang. If you're an Open Studio member, you can grab the PDF. If you want to become a member, I will post a link there in the chat to become a member for our, like I said, our lowest prices of the year. It's kind of crazy. It's crazy. Well, we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. Demon Jack, yeah, the Jazz Piano Primer is for novice beginners. So there's our Black Friday link there. If you want to sign up, like I said, you won't find a lower price all year long around than what we have right now. Obviously, it's Black Friday time. Oh, what's up, Amarillo? Amarillo co-signing on the Open Studio membership. It's pretty cool. We've got the largest community of jazz musicians, specifically pianists, anywhere in the world, nerding out on the kinds of stuff we're going to nerd out. Can you hear the piano okay? Let me know how the piano sounds. Well, it's great to see you guys. We haven't been live in a minute. No, I take that back. We go live all the time. Thanks for being here. I'm going to start this lesson right now. Going to give it a clap in, and we're off. Welcome to a very special edition of the Harmony Games Unlimited. My name's Adam Manis. I'm usually joined by the great Bob DeBoo and Caleb Kirby, but today I am solo. Not only that, but as I'm recording this for you at Open Studio, I'm also live on YouTube. It's probably not still there because it's just going to be an ephemeral, it's here and then it's gone, YouTube post. But I want to say shout out to everybody watching this or who had watched this after it's over on YouTube. Today, I don't know what came over me. I started just talking about a simple 4-5-1 progression in the key of B flat. This is where this day started for me. And then it evolved into so much more. So I might actually do this lesson into two parts. So you might be seeing part one here today and then part two next week. So let's get right to it because we've got a lot to go over. We're going to start here with the three chords that we're working on. We're talking about three chords and like, what can we do with just three chords? This is for songwriting. This is for arranging. This is for arranging on the fly. This is for things like vamping. This is for making something out of something very, very simple. And it doesn't get more simple than a 4-5-1 in the key of B flat, right? B flat, an incredible key. And a 4-5-1 is a chord progression that you will literally see in all styles of music, from all eras, still pop music today, pop music from 100 years ago, 4-5-1, can't beat it. Gotta know it. So E flat is our 4 chord. And when we say 4, we mean, if we start in the key of B flat is the 1. And if we move up the scale, C minor is the 2, D minor is the 3, E flat is the 4, F is the 5, G minor is the 6, and A diminished is the 7th, and that's true of every single key. There are distinct chords that follow that same pattern: major, minor, minor, major, dominant, minor, diminished, major, all throughout music. That's why going through 12 keys is really, really handy. But this is where we're starting today, and we are going to first start by getting a little bit more out of some inversions. Before that, let's just play this one more time so you can hear it in root position. Everything has the root on the bottom, right? Bam. Now, the first way that we can get a little bit more out of this basic chord progression is to use some inversion. So here's our basic progression again. Now for these triads, there are two different inversions. So there's three shapes. There's the root position shape, which we're already playing, where everything has the root on the bottom. And then there's the shape with the third and the bass. So our E flat, we put its third, G, in the bass. For the F, we put F's third, A, in the bass. And for the B flat, we put its third in the bass, right? So each of these chords is made up of root 3-5, and we can use the root 3-5 for the bass as an inversion for either one. So with the third in the bass, our second module here, it sounds like this. It's already a different feel. Like if we listen to the original, and then the third in the bass. Notice one special thing here with the third in the bass. I'm usually not going to put the third in the chord. If the third is in the bass, I'm not going to double it in the chord above. I'm going to double the fifth and I'm going to double the root when they're in the bass, but for whatever reason, for me, the third sounds cleanest when I don't have the third in the chord. So in this case, I'm adding another root to our E flat over G. I'm adding another root to our F over A. And then I'm adding another fifth to our B flat over D. That sounds better to me than, doesn't sound bad, it's just a little weaker to me than, right? So that's the third in the bass. Here's with the fifth in the bass. So the fifth of E flat is B flat, the fifth of our F is C, and the fifth of our B flat is F. And this has a very like unsettled feeling to it. Right? So let's go through these again so we can hear the difference. It's really important that you hear how these sound. So with the roots, very strong, very sure of itself, right? With the third and the bass, hopeful. It has like a feeling of, hopeful. And then with the fifth and the bass, nope. It feels like it wants to go somewhere and then resolve whenever it has the fifth and the bass. So that's the first way. Let's practice some different ways that we can sort of work these inversions, not just with everything in the same inversion, but using different inversions to get different sounds. So in our first example here, we're going to move up. And when I say move up, you'll notice that the root movement of every single one of these is moving in the direction up. So our E flat goes up to F. For our second example, this all goes up. This all goes up. It ascends, right? So that's what I mean when I mean everything goes up. It's all about that root movement. So our first example, that naturally goes up. And then we're going to kind of stand pat here on our B flat over F, right? Now, if we start in our second example, we have the third in the bass. We can resolve that F over A up to B flat. Isn't that cool? So using inversions to get some really great sounds. And then if we start our E flat with the fifth in the bass, we can then resolve, we got the fifth in the bass on the E flat, the fifth in the bass C on F, and then the third in the bass on that B flat D. And that creates, so if we listen to the root movements, we're making melodies now with the root. This is such an important point to make. Like your root movement is your secondary melody. Like if you have a melody on top of something, the way the root movement occurs is something that your audience really picks up on. And so what we're practicing today is really varying that for your audience so that you can have the same basic progression, 4-5-1, but use all of these different ways, 4-5-1, with different root movements to get there, right? And they all have different feelings. So let's try, so we're just moving up with the root movement. Let's practice sort of moving down. Our first example, we're going to move down. We're going to kind of pivot back up. There's a different version of this where we move down further, which I'm going to get to in our next section. So we start with our E flat over B flat, right? The fifth and the bass of the E flat. And then we use that second inversion of our F, the A in the bass, and then back up to the root position for B flat. So in our first example here, we're using all three different kinds of inversions, right? Second inversion, first inversion, and root position. Isn't that cool? If we start our E flat with the third in the bass, root position F, and then our B flat with the fifth in the bass. Again, using all three. And here, our root is moving downward. Now, here's a special one. I want you to pay attention to a chord here. This chord. This F over E flat. So I mentioned that F is the fifth, right? If we build a seventh chord, meaning we go up the triad one more, skip one more note from our triad, we add a seventh to the F, it's an F dominant 7. It has that E flat in it. This is a very common way to get back to B flat, using what we call that F dominant chord. this is our first example of using the E flat in the chord. It works so beautifully as an inversion. So this is what we would call the third inversion of an F dominant. This is putting the E flat in the bass. So that seventh of the chord in the bass. And we're going to get to more of this in just a minute, but I wanted to kind of tease it out here. Listen to this. How pretty is that? So the same chord progression, but you've got that seventh of our dominant 7, F7, our 5 chord. The seventh is in the bass, and it's moving down to the third of our tonic. Super special. Right, so far, if we look at our first example, we've got another version. Another version with that dominant 7th in the bass. Super cool. And then finally, 5th in the bass of F. And again, what do we get here with the root movement? We get melody. Isn't that incredible? Again, this is just 4-5-1 in B flat, but we have all of this variety of the root movement melody that just makes the possibilities endless. So if you're writing a song and you've got a 4-5-1, you can, of course, always keep it all root position, but we've already given you 7 different options for just the triad, with one 7th chord exception here, but just using triads, 7 different options of a 4-5-1, just changing up the root movement. Pretty amazing, actually, pretty fun. So let's add to part 1A here, let's add another dimension. So this is our first version of a chord substitution, where we're going to substitute one of our 4-5-1 chords, E flat, F, and B flat, for another chord. And we're going to use what's called diatonic mediants. Each one of those chords, B flat, E flat, and F, right? If we look at the first chord of each one of these measures, B flat, E flat, and F, have a mediant and a submediant. So they have a chord that is a third up, D minor, the 3 chord from B flat, and a third down, G minor, the 6 in B flat. So these are like cousins. Notice that our upper mediant, D minor from B flat, shares 2 notes with B flat major, D and F. It's very, very closely related, right? The only difference is the B flat moves down to A. And with the submediant, the F moves up to G, right? So it shares B flat and D major, and D natural. So those chords are connected to each other. And you'll hear composers, arrangers, and players swap them out at very key times, right? Same thing with E flat. Go a third up, and we share 2 notes with G minor, back to our target, and then we go a third down, and we share 2 notes with C minor. Now this is all in the key of B flat, so notice there are no accidentals on these chords. Isn't that nice? Same with F. We go a third up, and you've got that A diminished. We go a third down, you got that D minor. Now notice that A diminished, we share 2 notes, the A and the C, and the D minor, we share 2 notes, the F and the A. So very, very closely related. This is diatonic mediants. So you're like, okay, well, why should we care about diatonic mediants in this context? Well, because you can start swapping. If you're composing, arranging, or even on the fly, you can start swapping the diatonic mediants, and they sound so similar to your target. So if we go back to our original, B flat, and let's hear this first example. Right, that relative major, or relative minor, G minor, you can hear it shares so much in common with the B flat. Right? Another diatonic mediant, remember if we go up from E flat, we get G minor as well. So if we look here at our second example, You got, right? How would it sound with the original? Here's the original: E flat, F, B flat. And if we use that diatonic median above E flat, just a subtle different, right? It's a whole different chord, but it's close to E flat and it sounds really good. We can use inversions to create movement again. So here we have the median of the 5 chord, F7. We can use that A minor 7 flat 5. That's kind of a half diminish, you might call, to go up to B flat. Isn't that beautiful? We can go, ooh, I missed a note here. Check this out. We can write this in real quick. So for our next example, we're going to use both the diatonic medians of B flat. So we're right here on our third example. Oop. And we can use, instead of landing on B flat, let's use both of the medians, the one from above and the one from below. Right? We're like circling B flat with its relatives. Amazing way to do some simple chord substitutions when you're writing music. If you keep resolving E flat, F to B flat, maybe there's a time where it feels like you want to delay that a little bit, and then maybe you resolve to the B flat. Isn't that beautiful? But these are the kind of the mechanics of how you can use these diatonic medians. One more, that submedian of E flat, a third down, is C minor. We don't even have to change the chord, we can just change the root. C minor 7, do a little F7 sus here to B flat, a little 2-5-1. So yeah, the 2 chord and the 4 chord are so closely related as the sort of like subdominant. That's 4-5-1, here's 2-5-1. Right? Isn't that amazing? So that is how inversions and diatonic medians can really expand what you're able to do with a very basic 4-5-1. Join me for part 2 coming up in about a week. Until then, happy practicing. Not for you, YouTube. We're doing part 2 right now. We're getting right to it. So let's get into it. How's everybody doing? I'm going to check the comments here real quick. Y'all good? Just checking here. Sounds good. Cool, cool, cool. All right, I'm going to get right into part 2. Welcome to another edition of the Harmony Games Unlimited. My name's Adam Manis. I'm here again solo. This is part 2 of our 3 chords endless possibilities. If you didn't check out part 1, go to your dashboard and check out last week's lesson, all on getting the most out of inversions and diatonic medians on a simple 4-5-1 chord progression in the key of B flat. We're going to expand on that today, and we're going to start with, okay, listen, this is going to get hairy. I'm going to be honest with you. If you are not in the mood to go on a deep dive of like some Barry Harris level diminished chord theory, you might step out. You might take a knee, because we're going to go deep on this. And it's going to be crazy, but that's what we're doing. So Barry Harris, amongst many others, by the way. Barry Harris wasn't the only person to talk about this kind of stuff, but really the only jazz musician to talk about it in such a distinct way. Talked about this family that you can get off of one chord. The chord is called a diminished chord. I'm going to talk to you about how this applies to our 4-5-1 in the key of B flat, but I want you to notice we're still in the key of B flat. And our very first chord that we have here is a beautiful chord called an F sharp diminished, right here. The F sharp diminished is built from, of course, F sharp, and it's literally a series of minor thirds. So from F sharp, you go up a minor third to A, you go up a minor third again to C, and you go up another minor third to E flat. By a minor third, we mean 3 semitones between each one. Now notice, if you went up another minor third from E flat, you'd be back at F sharp. So this chord is a symmetrical chord, meaning that all of its inversions are the same exact shape. All of them are always a minor third away. So our F sharp diminished, you have 4 diminished chord possibilities, right? 4 different roots for a diminished chord that you can use as a substitute, that are so related to our F sharp diminished that they might as well be in the same family. That's where this comes from, right? You can use them in the similar context, which is what we're going to get to in a minute. So we've got our F sharp. Now, if you don't want to use F sharp, A diminished 7. Also, I'm not even going to change the chord. I'm just going to change the root. Right? A diminished 7, same notes, different root. C diminished 7, same notes, different root. E flat diminished 7, same notes, different root. So again, any situation where you might use an F sharp diminished, A diminished, C diminished, and E flat diminished, all will work as great substitutions. And notice again, each one of those is a minor third away, and then it would start over at F sharp. Now, here's where the Barry Harrisness really comes into play. If we take our F sharp diminished and we lower our first note of F sharp here by 1/2 step, that becomes an F. That is an F7 chord. You may remember the F7 chord as the 5 chord in our 4-5-1 chord progression. So this F7 is part of the family of this diminished because we're just moving one note down a 1/2 step. Notice the other notes of the F7 are A, C, and E flat, which are 3 of the notes of our F sharp diminished, A diminished, C diminished, and E flat diminished. Right? If we lower, let's say, the second note, the A, down a 1/2 step of our F sharp diminished, we get G flat, A flat, C, and E flat. That is an A flat dominant 7 chord. That is also in this family of diminished. If we go back to our F sharp diminished, if we lower the C down a 1/2 step, we get a B7 chord, right? You got F sharp, A, B, and D sharp. Notice that we've got this B here now, but everything else is still part of that F sharp diminished. F sharp, A, that D sharp is also E flat, right? And finally, if we lower our top note, our E flat, down to D, you've got D7, D, F sharp, A, and C, right? Again, all the other 3 notes are from that F sharp diminished. So these are all in the same family, which is insane. So anytime you would use a possibility of an F sharp diminished, you can use A diminished, C diminished, E flat diminished, but you could also use F7, A flat 7, B7, and D7. Now, if we lower, let's say we lower instead of lowering one of the notes, what if we raised our C up to C sharp? That gets us an F minor 6 shape, an F minor triad with that natural 6 on it. What if we, back to the F sharp diminished, raised the D sharp or E flat up? That gets us an A minor 6 shape, right? You got A minor triad and that F sharp on top. Back to the F sharp diminished. What if we raised F sharp? That gets us C minor 6, right? A C minor triad with that natural 6. And finally, what if we raise the A up to B flat? Up a half step, that gets us E flat minor 6. So are you feeling okay? You got a headache? You feel a little dizzy? It's a lot, right? This is a 4 bars that is actually can be a lifetime of work. And it's like, why would I even bother, right? Why even do that? You are going to be so shocked at the most beautiful progressions you can make by just having a handle on these 4 bars. So again, anytime F sharp diminished would be applicable, or actually anytime any of these chords are applicable, then you can sub in some way or another for one of the other ones at any point. Isn't that kind of crazy? It's kind of crazy. So F sharp gets us F sharp, A, C diminished, E flat diminished 7. And it also gets us, if we lower something, F, A flat, B, and D. Notice that the roots here are a minor third away. And it also gets us F minor 6, A minor 6, C minor 6, and E flat minor 6. Okay. Let's actually work through how this could work in our progression, right? So let's go through all the diminished possibilities. Remember, we've got F sharp, A, C, and E flat. Let's start with E flat. So we got our 4, right? Let's play our original just real quick. F7 to B flat. Let's hear it with that E flat substitution. Because, by the way, hold on. I skipped ahead a little bit. So if we go back a few to the beginning, right? Our F chord, we talked about how it's an F7 chord. Why would we be able to sub in all of these diminished and dominants and minor 6 chords? Because the F7 is an F7. It's part of, as we've seen, it's part of the family, right? Here's F7. That's a 5 chord in the key of B flat. So because that F7 is an F7, any of these chords are part of its family and can be substituted. So that's just a little bit of context of why we're able to do this. Okay, back to our progression. So we would usually have F7 here to B flat. But what would happen if we wanted to try some of these diminished? That E flat sounds so good, and it takes us right down voice leading wise to that B flat over D. It's an incredible substitution. What if we wanted to do the C diminished? Again, another version of the root movement, a different texture. What if we wanted to do F sharp? This is classic. You hear this all over the place. E flat over G, F sharp diminished going to our B flat over F, right? An inversion. What about our A diminished? We can do a little root movement up, right? So those are our 4 diminished, E flat, C, F sharp, and A in our 4-5-1 context, substituting out that F7 chord. Amazing, right? Anytime you have a dominant 7, if you understand what its family members are, it's instant substitutions in some incredible ways. Where did I go? So let's try now all of the dominants. Remember we have, if we go back here, we've got F7, A flat 7, B7, and D7. Now, not only do we have those, but we have all of their inversions. That's right. We have 4 inversions of each. I told you, I went stupid on this. This is too much. Honestly, it's too much. So we've got our F7, of course. And then we can do the version of F7 with the 3rd in the bass. This is all very typical. Let's use a diatonic median. Lost a little light thing there. F7 over C, so with the C stays the same on our 3rd example, right? And then of course we can put the 7th in the bass of F7, which we've already done. So these are our 4 different inversions of the F7. Our second version here is the first inversion. Use a little diatonic mediant from our last lesson, C minor instead of E flat. And then with the 7th in the bass. Now your afternoon is about to go from good to great. Listen to what it sounds like if we use another one. Remember, what's our next one here? A flat 7 is our next dominant that we can use. Right? That's the next one up. Let's hear how that sounds. A flat 7 over E flat. What? Are you kidding me? Listen to that. Let's do A flat 7 over G flat. That chromatic movement. I mean, you could use the F sharp diminished, or you could use the A flat 7. Amazing, right? What about just regular old A flat 7? Maybe we go to the diatonic mediant below B flat, G minor. And then the A flat over C, A flat 7 over C. Amazing, right? That's where the family just kills. All based off of a 4-5-1 in the key of B flat. What about the next one up? B7. That's our next dominant chord. Listen to this. That should be D sharp on top. My apologies. Woo! Should be D sharp on top of that chord as well, not E flat. It's the same note, but enharmonically it's driving me nuts. These are all the B7 options. Finally, a little mediant here. Yeah, my bad on the misspelling on the B7, but it is the same note, just a different spelling. How great is that? Okay, let me just show you with this. So like we got our 4-5-1, right? Here's what it typically sounds like. Let's use one of these. It just goes, woo, it pulls you out for a second, and then maybe you go back to the regular 4-5-1. Our next dominant is D7. Let's hear how this might sound. We gotta take it to the minor there. We gotta. Our first example. What about our second example here, starting with the 3rd in the bass? Like, notice now we've had a few different versions of that F sharp moving down. We've had diminished. We've had A flat over G flat. We've had B. And now we've had D7. All of those work. All of those are part of the family. Moving up, D7 over A. And finally, crazy. Okay, now we have our minor 6 to go through, right? So we've covered all of our dominant 7 chords. Now we're going to work on our minor 6. We've got F sharp minor 6, A minor 6, C minor 6, and E flat minor 6. Let's start on the C minor 6 as a way. Sorry, I lost it here. I lost it. There it is. For whatever reason, I lost the accidental. That's our first example. C minor 6 over E flat to our B flat over D. Here's G in the bass. Super interesting. we want to move it up, C minor over A. Same thing as A half diminished, by the way. And then we'll use a diatonic mediant. Just amazing. E flat minor 6. And yet another version of this chromatic walk down on the second example. Our third example, everything stays on B flat on the root. Amazing, right? Amazing. All of these are so good. Our F sharp / G minor 6, I changed these depending on how I was feeling, honestly. These are kind of crazy. We'll use the F sharp version here. And then this walk up here. Killing. One more here, our A minor 6. This is the weirdest one by far. Doesn't really work, actually. That one works, actually. And then finally, that one is killing. That last one. Come on. You kidding me? I told you we were getting super nerdy. So one more time here, just to look at the Barry's family of diminished possibilities. Where'd they go? There's so many. Right? So we have just all of these possibilities here. You've got diminished, you've got dominant, you've got minor 6, and all of these can be swapped out and used all using all of their inversions. It's just, the possibilities really are endless. You can just do all kinds of different versions. And that's not even counting things like modal interchange and other ways to get around a simple 4-5-1. So we took it to the extreme. That's about as deep as I can go on a 4-5-1. I hope you enjoyed it. It was fun to experiment with something. I often will take something like this in this course, in the Harmony Games Unlimited, like a very simple idea, and then it's like, how much juice can we squeeze from this idea harmonically, right? Like, what are all the options that practically you hear musicians actually use? And I hear musicians use most of these all the time, right? All the inversions, all the mediants, and a lot of the family, like 90% of the family chords, you hear in popular music, you hear in jazz, you hear in R&B, you hear in blues. And I think it's really a worthy pursuit to get those together. By the way, it might take a while. Like, that's just one key, right? Luckily, there are only 3 diminished chords. So once you kind of learn the 3 sets, you kind of have it. But I'm 46 years old, and I still am trying to get it all the way. You know, it's just a lot to just automatically be able to do. So you have your favorites, you have your things that you've been working on, but man, very, very worthwhile. Thank you, everybody. Join me next week for another edition of the Harmony Games. Until then, happy practicing. All right, YouTube, what's going on? We're still live here. Can field any questions you might have. If you'd like the PDF, if you're an Open Studio member, that's in the hang right now. If you'd like to become an Open Studio member, it's Black Friday. We've got our biggest savings of the year. We're putting links here in the chat. There's one pinned, obviously. So if you've been thinking about signing up, we do this every week here at Open Studio, the Harmony Games Unlimited. Peter Martin does a new lesson of the jazz piano method every week for Open Studio. And we have new courses being released once a month at least. This month we're releasing 2, Kaylee O'Doherty and Sullivan Fortner, and it's pretty special what we're doing around here. It's so much fun we're having making this stuff, and our team is amazing. Our artists are amazing. So come join the incredible community that we've got over here. A couple of mediant questions. A couple questions. Josh says, name a standard you would use to practice some of these tools. I mean, any standard would work, Josh. Like, what do you got? You know? I mean, if you want to take, like, the most basic. like autumn leaves. Hold on, let me get this. Get this off real quick. There we go. You want to take something like autumn leaves, right? You have a 2-5-1 in B flat. So I'm literally just using everything we just talked about. Medians. Just substituting kind of randomly, but it would make a really good intro to that song to just work through all of these things on Autumn Leaves. This is not a new weekly broadcast. This is a weekly lesson that I do for Open Studio members. If you want to be a member, you can click on any of those links, and we do new lessons. 2 new lessons from me and Peter every week, plus new courses every month. Plus, if you're an Open Studio Pro member, 5 live classes a day. So, the F7 on Autumn Leaves, Look of Leo says, not just the F7. So for the F7, I was doing like, sometimes I was doing B, sometimes I was doing A flat. Sometimes I was doing F7, but you could do like on the C minor, right? Do a median, E flat major, and then maybe to B7, right? And then maybe to an inversion, B flat over D, and then maybe to a median of E flat, C minor. And then for our A minor 7 flat 5, how about just like C in the bass, and then D in the bass, and then G minor over B flat, and then C minor over B flat, and then what about D over A, back to B flat, E flat over G, F7, B to G. Like all of these are, and this is just my fluency, which is limited at this point, but that's pretty good actually. It feels nice to do. You know what I mean? From the Hit says, I'm simply not fluent enough, but it all makes sense. So start simple. Start with the tune you know, like Autumn Leaves or whatever tune you think you know great. And just find your favorite ones. You're going to have ones that lay in your head better than the other, for sure. I like it. Who's better, Peter, Adam, and Ed says Peter Manis is better than both. Yeah, that's right. Incredible combination. Cool, y'all. I was talking about diatonic medians. Yeah, so diatonic medians are very simple. If you're in a key, any chord in that key has 2 medians on either side. So if we're in the key of B flat, the median above is a third up, D minor, and the median below is a third below, G minor, in the key of B flat, right? If you're playing an E flat in the key of B flat, right? The 4 chord, you have 2 medians, C minor 7 and G minor 7, right? If you're playing a G minor 7 in the key of B flat, you have 2 medians, above B flat major and E flat major below. They're just the diatonic chord that's a third above or a third below, and they are a perfect, easy substitute when you're composing, arranging, or even on the fly. All right. Any other questions before we go? Oh, here's a great question. This is from DNR. Any tips on not getting discouraged with the piano? It seems like it will take 15 years for me to become a decent player, and sometimes I just feel like giving up. So that is in art. That is a completely understandable and actually pretty common question and reaction sometimes we get. And just so you know, everybody feels like they're not quite where they want to be in general. I feel that I've had conversations with some of the greatest musicians in the world that feel like I have more to go. There's so much more that I'm aspiring towards, right? So you're not alone there. But I would just remind you that the mindset of I have to be good now, or I have to be somewhere I'm not now, is not going to serve you getting there. What will serve you is creating a musical life, right? So like incorporating your art into your daily existence is the difference between the greatest players that you can think of and where you might be right now, where it's like, sometimes we think I have to practice this amount and I have to get to this and do this by this age or by this time. And that's just not how it works for anybody, not even your favorite players, right? What the best musicians in the world do have just made music their life, right? So they live a life of music where they're not just thinking about like, oh, I need to practice 16 hours today to reach a certain level by this point. They've incorporated art into their daily existence, and everything they do is part of that. And at different stages of your life, that means different things. So there's really no getting around some just hours of putting in to get skills and develop your skills as a musician. That's not, honestly, that big a deal. Like that just takes a little bit of discipline. It's like doing push-ups. Like if you want to get good at push-ups, do push-ups every day. If you want to get good at playing the piano, play the piano every day. But the consistency can be very difficult. And the comparing yourself to other people and being discouraged that you don't think where you are is good enough can be very discouraging. But the practice itself remains the same. We get up and we work on stuff. Like I was just telling you, my fluency at what I just taught you is still limited by the key and the chord and the set that I'm doing. And there was a certain point in my life where I was like, oh man, I'll never get it, right? And then you realize, wait, nobody knows everything. Even the greatest players don't know this stuff even, you know what I mean? Like all of this stuff. And there's no moment where I'm going to wake up a mediocre player and become a great player. It's just like the more I just live, eat, sleep, breathe music, the more of a musician I am. And there's no wrong notes. There's nothing I can do. It's good because I'm playing it because I'm good with myself. And we have that relationship as an audience. You're like, oh, everything's fine because even if he makes a mistake, he's not worried about it, right? Like these things are what really matter when we're trying to grow long term. Obviously, you can have short-term goals of like, I'd like to get my technique up to a place where I'd like to learn this family of diminished chords better. But that never ends, by the way. You know what I did this morning? I woke up and I played major scales. I've been doing that since I was 10 years old. I'll still do it when I'm 80, right? Because it feels good, and I need to do it all the time to stay sharp and stay fresh. You know what I'm saying? There is no finish line. There is no morning where you wake up a better musician than you went to bed. There's just the daily existence of living music. And you're good just as you are. You have all the tools you need. It's just about the experience. Derek says, do you like harmony, the Brazilian style? It's incredible. Yes. Brazilians know their harmony. Crypto LA Music is not sure about the beard, and he said it 6 times. Why do you care about that? What are we going to do about it, crypto? What should we do? All right, y'all. I think that's it for me. Thanks very much. Like I said, if you want the PDF and you want to join us here every week for these, become an Open Studio member. Now's the best time of year to do it. And we got a link there pinned for our Black Friday sale. Cool, y'all. Have a great rest of your day.
You'll need to do it on the camera.
I will see